So you just pulled Jingliu and you're wondering how to build her. In this video we'll be going over the ins and outs of her abilities, what traits to prioritize, what's her best light cone, relics, party compositions, and much more. So with that out the way, let's get into this, yeah? We'll first go over her abilities. Jingliu's basic attack, Lucent Moonlight, should never be used as it does nothing for her core mechanics. Her skill Transcendent Flash, however, should be used every single turn. Not only does it do good damage, but it'll give us one syzygy stack. We'll go over what those are used for in a bit. Her ultimate Floor Ephemeral Dream Flux does massive damage to the main target and splash damage to adjacent enemies. It'll also give us one syzygy stack. Her Talon Crescent Transmigration is a wall of attacks, so let's break this down one piece at a time, shall we? When we acquire 2 stacks of syzygy, we'll enter Spectral Transmigration State, which will now be referred to as Enhanced State, as I'll be saying this a lot. Once we enter her Enhanced State, we'll be able to act right away, and our critical chance gets boosted by 50% for the duration of the state. Our skill upgrades to Moon on Glacial River, and we cannot use our basic attack. Not like we were going to use it anyway. This costs 0 SP, and it's a mini version of her ultimate. It'll do a lot of damage on the main target, and splash damage on adjacent enemies. Every time Jingliu attacks, she'll consume 4% of our allies' HP to increase her attack stat. She can get a massive 180% attack boost from her base, which comprises of her base stat and light cone combined. So for example, her base attack at level 80 is 679, and we'll use Fall on Aeon since that's the best light cone for us free-to-play users, which is 529. This is a total of 1208, which gets multiplied by 180 to give us how much HP we'll need to drain from our allies in total to get the max attack buff. We'll then divide this number by 540, and then another 4% to give us the total amount of HP that we need from our allies to meet the attack buff. You could then divide this by 3 so you could see what each member needs to roughly have, but in total you'll need this number right here. And lastly, her technique Shine of Truth. It'll form an aura around her for 20 seconds that'll break all objects, and any enemy in radius will become frozen. Once you enter battle, you'll get 15 energy and 1 syzygy stack. Enemies will also take damage, and there's a chance they'll become frozen. And if this is a multi-wave fight, then each wave is affected. The general gameplay of Jingliu is to hold on to your ultimate until you get into your enhanced state, and then you let everything rip for burst damage. Our ultimate will now be the only way to accumulate syzygy, which will give us a total of 3 Moon on Glacial River instead of the normal 2. Our technique is mandatory to start the fight as it gives us 15 energy, and it lets us get out of our low damage window into our burst window, and our traces will help with that. Sword Champion advances us by 10% every time we use Transcendent Flash. This is amazing as it gets us closer to the enhanced state. Once in our enhanced state, Death Realm will activate, which is roughly 8% debuff resistance, and lastly, Frost Wrath. This further backs up the playstyle I summarized a little while ago. You want to use your ultimate in the enhanced state, as it will now do 20% more damage. Now that we've gone over all our abilities, let's go over the priority of leveling up these traces. You'll want to level up your talent and skill side by side, with your ultimate being right behind them. Your basic attack can stay at level 1 since you never want to touch this. Trust me, saving your resources will thank you later on. Now that we've gone over our traces, I'll briefly touch on Eidolons. I don't recommend anyone getting Eidolons, especially if you're free to play watching this, because it's always better to get a completely new character than getting a slight increase on your favorite character. Moving on to light cones. Her best one is obviously her signature one, and just like I stated prior, you don't want to pull on Eidolons or light cones. It's always better to get a completely new character, but like I said, if she's your favorite character, then this is her best light cone by far. And if you want to get this in the future, she'll probably be rerun in the next 7 to 8 months, so you could save up until she comes back. Now for one that we could all get. On the Fall of Aeon, you could pick this up at the Herta shop. The attack buff isn't the best since it'll be oversaturated with our talent, but the damage boost is really nice as it could go up to 24%. That's huge, and it'll allow Jingliu to do even more burst damage. Here's where skill expression comes into play. If you're about to exit your enhanced state, then perhaps stop attacking that enemy who's about to be broken soon so you could build up your syzygy and then break the enemy to take advantage of the damage boost. Now if you used up your Herda Bonds on another light cone, then Secret Vow is your third best option as it's a flat 20% damage increase. If you're below your enemy's HP, then you get another 20% damage boost. Skill expression can also come into play here because instead of healing right away, let Jingliu attack first if you can, and then heal up the party. If you got clear as light cone something irreplaceable, then it's a good fourth with any other light cone coming after these. Now that we cover her best light cone, let's move on to relics. This one's gonna seem like a no-brainer that you'll want the Hunter of Glacial Forest set, and you're right! These perfectly synergize with what she's looking to do. Use her ultimate and then use 2 enhanced attacks right after. Now from a resource efficiency standpoint, it's probably one of the worst domains you could farm, because there's only one unit in the game that wants the other half of this relic domain, being the Eagle of Twilight set, and it's not even a win character. So unless you really like Jingliu and you want the best for her, I'd rather farm for the Genius of Brilliant Stars domain. While we cannot make use of the 2-piece bonus, we do take advantage of the 4-piece bonus. It'll ignore 10% of the enemy's defense and an additional 10 if they're weak to Quantum. This is roughly 2% less damage than the Ice set, but this set is universal on any damage dealer regardless of their element because of the defense penetration. As you get into the end game, the enemies will have more defense, and ignoring 10 to 20% is way more of a damage increase than 10% Ice will give you. If that wasn't enough to convince you, then the Guard of Withering Snow set that comes alongside this can be used on all your supports and sustains. So you'll be gearing up your whole roster versus the Ice domain, which is only for really Jingliu and Yanqing. Now that you know which domain you should be farming for, what are the main stats you should be looking for? For chest piece, you'll want critical damage because our talent already gives us 50% critical hit rate. For shoes, you'll want speed boots so we can enter our enhanced state quicker, so the downtime is a lot shorter. For the planar orb, you'll want ice damage. This one's non-negotiable. For rope, you'll want attack percent since energy regen doesn't do anything for breakpoints. For substats, you'll want to look for critical rate, critical damage, speed, and then attack percent. Now that we've gone over which stats to look for, let's go over her best teammates. Her best supporting teammate will be Pella. Pella's ultimate applies a 40% defense down that stacks with the Genius set I mentioned before, and if you manage to get Pella's Eidolon E4, then this will reduce ice resistance by 12%, which is a constant damage increase for Jingliu. Another support that you'll probably pull is Tingyun, which is on her banner. She'll buff her attack, damage, and she could replenish her energy so you could get another ultimate in your enhanced state for 4 enhanced attacks. Since she'll be training the team's HP, she'll definitely want a healer. Natasha's free and she could get the job done. Now if you got lucky with your stand-up pulls and got Bronya, then she's looking really spicy. She makes Jingliu's downtime go from 2 turns to 1 turn with her skill. She'll also buff your attack, damage, and crit damage. If you got Bailu, then she could easily replace any of the 4-star healers, which makes your run a lot easier so you don't need a tank. Hopefully this video helped you build your Jingliu properly, and if you have any questions then please comment down below. And if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to see more as I plan on making more character guides. Until the next video, I'll see ya!